And there you have it. The Miami Heat have won the 2012 NBA Championship. It is Chad here with another In the OT podcast for BetHubb We are going to break down what occurred in this series and in the clinching game tonight. I will first come on record and say that I was dead wrong in my prediction in this series here. I figured that it was going to go at least 6 or 7 games. I wasn't overly confident that Oklahoma City was going to win, but I did choose them. And if any team was going to lose, I did not expect it to happen in the fashion that Miami ran away with this. And truth be told, for the exception of game number 5, every single game was extremely competitive that really could have gone either way in the final minutes. But nonetheless, the Miami Heat are a very deserving champion. They thoroughly outplayed Oklahoma City when the games mattered most in the final minutes there from games 2 through 4. And I think a lot of that had to do with the players that were on the court. No one can dispute that LeBron James was undoubtedly the most dominating player on the court in this finals and throughout the entire playoffs. He put on a performance for the ages, and as much as I couldn't stand what transpired 2 summers ago with the decision and the stupid dancing when they all got together with that rally there at the American Airlines Arena and the not 1, not 2, not 3, and everything that is negative surrounding the Heat in terms of the personalities of those players on the team, I can put that aside for a couple of moments and realize that these guys did play terrific basketball and appreciate them for that. At the end of the day here, I know that I'm never going to meet these guys, and if I do, it ain't going to be for very long, and I can assure you that I'm not going to be good friends with them. So who really cares about the personalities of these guys right now? Let's talk about how great they were as basketball players, and it really was a spectacle to see tonight in particular. I mean, that three-point shooting was just off the hook. There was nothing that Oklahoma could do. They had no responses. And at the end of the day, if you're Oklahoma City and you can somewhat contain the big three, you'll be fine letting Mike Miller, Shane Battier, and Mario Chalmers try to kill you. Well, they just so happened to do that. And, I think a lot of the reason why Miami was so successful, maybe an area of this series that I didn't see playing out this way is the fact that in those final few minutes, their defense was just tremendous. And when you look at Durant and how hard he had to work just to even get position on the court and catch the ball at a reasonable area in terms of proximity to the hoop, it wasn't nearly at the same level as what he was used to having, especially in the San Antonio Spurs. They were really D'ing him up. He was catching the ball on the perimeter. He had no space to operate and get off easy looks. It was forcing Westbrook to take too many shots. And I'm not going to sit here and criticize Westbrook like so many people do right now. It's absolutely absurd. The guy's in his young 20s. He's a great basketball player. Sure, he's not the most natural point guard, but he does far more good things than bad on the court. But nonetheless, if you're Miami or any other team, you'll be very content if he's taking more shots than Durant, as he's clearly the better team player on that team. And for Harden, he pretty much didn't show up for the finals. That was a huge problem for them, because outside of those 3 guys, they don't have a lot of offensive depth. And I thought that their ability to put the ball on the floor and get to the hoop, along with their outside shooting, would have been the difference, because I thought that Miami would not be able to shoot well from the outside. Boy, oh boy, did they prove me wrong. And maybe we all did underestimate Chris Bosh's ability. The fact that he can knock down that 14 to 16 footer really helps extend the defense. It brings Serge Ibaka out of the paint. It brings Kendrick Perkins out of the paint. It makes it easier for the likes of a LeBron and a way to put the ball on the floor and have easier access to the hoop. And then even someone like Chalmers, you've seen what he's been able to do. So props to Chris Bosh and his ability to hit that shot. They played much tougher defense, and they just thoroughly outplayed them. They executed all the big time plays in the final minutes, and tonight was just sort of the exclamation point in terms of taking home this series. And you do have to give a lot of credit to the Heat here, as much as all the haters, who I would consider myself one of them in the past, and still to some degree, just because I would have rather seen LeBron stay in Cleveland, as it's more of just a cool story. Guys from Akron, city of Cleveland, hasn't had a lot of success in the sports world, not exactly a high profile area to live in the United States, not very desired. Someone that had an opportunity to lift the spirits of that city sort of bailed on them. But at the same point in time, I will say this, and that's the one thing I've always respected about LeBron. He never has been selfish from the standpoint of wanting to do it all on his own. The fact that he pretty much admitted that he needed help in order to win a ring is saying something about him. A lot of times people get criticized in professional sports for being greedy, for being selfish, for being a prick, and not wanting to involve other players. Well, he did the exact opposite, willing to change cities, willing to allow other players to maybe get a few more looks at the hoop, shoot more, and score more, just so he could win a title. And if that's all he's after, he got his one today, and I expect to see many more here in the future, because now all that pressure that's been built up over all these years has finally just like a big load taken off his shoulders. And I believe this team's going to play with more freedom on the court. They're going to be looser, and they're going to be able to bring in more free agents that want to play for them now that they've seen them get the first one off their backs. And anytime there's just that much pressure on you and there's so many people rooting against you, it is not an easy thing to do, despite the fact that they had all that talent. So I give them a lot of credit for persevering through all the tough times. Even this year in the playoffs, I believe they mentioned tonight in the post-game show they were the first team in NBA history to have trailed in 3 out of 4 series and win. Their backs were up against the wall in a big time against Boston, a veteran team who I thought would close them out in Game 6. LeBron had an absolutely epic performance, taking it back to Game 7. Even there, they trailed at halftime. They won. Indiana gave them their fits. Oklahoma in Game 1, you saw what they were able to do in that comeback, and then it looked like they were doing the same thing in Game 2, and they really just persevered through it. So I have nothing but good things to say about the Miami Heat right now. And from a basketball fan's perspective, it's definitely going to make things extremely interesting moving forward. So congratulations to LeBron. The guy is obviously a terrific basketball player. He obviously learned from what went wrong last year. The fact that he came out and said he was immature, I think a lot of those guys did a lot of self-reflecting and realized maybe they did act too much like clowns and they took things for granted. And losing that first one to Dallas maybe woke them up and could make them even more dangerous in the future, shall I dare say, because had they won last year, maybe they take things for granted and it's too easy and they're going to just come back and perform like that again. But now the fact that they lost, it made them hungry and they maybe realized a little bit more of what was required in the process in terms of winning an NBA championship. So anytime you have potential dynasties growing, you know that it's big business for the NBA. Hint, hint. Nudge, nudge, in terms of the conspiracy with Mr. Stern wanting to allow these big three to happen, but yet having the power to veto Chris Paul to go to the Lakers. I think he wants LeBron to win these championships. Have you ever seen a commissioner have such a smirk when handing out a trophy at the end of a game? I don't think so. We'll stop the rant there. That concludes the NBA season 2012. Chad here, another In the OT podcast, BetHubbSportsBlog.com.